Hi, my name is Özgür Yılmaz. I am doing my doctorate in the Department of Journalism at Istanbul University. I am 28. I think that the fields of political science and communication studies have become closer to each other on many issues recently. Therefore, I will try to prove this thesis through the concepts I have determined. That's why I am recording this podcast. I hope you find listening. The first topic we will talk about is critical geopolitics. The fact that geography represents power is the starting point of geopolitics. Political geography studies are important in making geopolitics gain importance. Geopolitics determines a country's position relative to regional and global power centers. Early geopolitical studies are called classical geopolitics. Classical geopolitics aims to be able to read the visible features of the region and make comments about the results to be determined in order to make a wide-scale examination in the context of global politics, to determine the practical management of the state and the art of the statesmanship and the long-term strategies to be followed within the scope of national security. Classical geopolitics is based on the expansion of the concept of security. Especially in the post-Cold War period, geographical features such as classical geopolitical location, size, and shape began to gain different meanings. During this period, a new movement called critical geopolitics was born. Critical geopolitics emerged as a result of critical theory's approach to international relations. Critical geopolitics examines geographical assumptions in the international arena. Critical geopolitics is based on the policies, cooperation, studies, and forms of various institutions of a country with other countries and regions. Critical geopolitics analyzes the geopolitical assumptions and founding myths of power from a critical perspective. Critical geopolitics expresses that maps, one of the determinist tools of classical geopolitics, are not universal reality. The second topic we will talk about is Gothic Marxism. The word Gothic has its origins in the Germanic people of the Gotland region in southern Scandinavia. In history, Gothic is an important moment, the transition from the Middle Ages to the Renaissance. A Gothic art movement can also be mentioned, which became dominant in painting, sculpture, and architecture in the early 18th century. Space is an important element in Gothic artworks, and an atmosphere of fear and tension prevails in these works. Themes of pollution and poisoning are also characteristics of the Gothic style. Gothic has been used as a main title for anything dark, irrational, and anti-classical. The Goths as a people have been terrifying. It is true that the Goths were the first barbarians to kill a Roman emperor. The Gothic style was a disturbing strangeness and irrationality. It was a feeling of terror that paralyzed mental and physical abilities. In this respect, it was natural that science fiction, which was largely aligned with Enlightenment ideals, tended to eliminate the Gothic surrounded by demons, fairies, zombies, gods, and the like. While representing the human being who wants to take his destiny into his own hands, science fiction has tried to get rid of metaphysical burdens, overcome or at least control the fantastic, fear, and horror by drawing it into the realm of the known. The way science fiction could draw the incomprehensible into the realm of the known was by absorbing the unknown within its own narrative universe and rendering it powerless. In this respect, the structure of science fiction is especially intertwined with horror and fantasy genres. Capital is often depicted in a Gothic style. It is an abstract parasite, an insatiable vampire, and zombie manufacturer. In the early 1990s, as the Soviet experiment with communism continued to fall, literary historian Margaret Cohen examined the interchange between the writings of Walter Benjamin and Surrealism, a phenomenon she called Gothic Marxism. Gothic Marxism can be conceived as an undercurrent of thought in the 20th century, where skepticism towards the possible intersects with a will to rebel that will be conscious or even unconscious. Surrealism can actually be seen as an effort to free the possible from its limitation. Gothic Marxism warns against a Marxism constructed in Enlightenment terms. Gothic Marxism attempts to construct and alternative Marxism, capturing the essential, irrational, and seemingly trivial aspects of life under capitalism. Focusing on surrealism and fantastic movements, Gothic Marxism challenges the idea of progressive bourgeois rationality by drawing attention to the revolutionary energies contained in the mysterious and the everyday. Gothic Marxism offers a critique of the traditional Marxist perspective, outlining a Marxist genealogy fascinated with the irrational aspects of social processes, exploring how the irrational pervades existing society and considering using it to affect social change. Gothic Marxism suspends an explanation of the rationality of capital and returns to Karl Marx's monstrous metaphors about capital. Marx's critique of capital was influenced by the dark narrative of the Victorian period. Therefore, Marxism's narrative of exploitation was influenced by Gothic elements. What makes Gothic Marxism important in today's political science and communication sciences intersection is the exploitation experienced in the capital accumulation process. The use of slave labor, especially in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is experiencing a civil war, in the extraction of coltan used in the production of digital products, and the military conditions on the assembly line at Foxconn can be cited as examples of Gothic narratives in digital capitalism. The third topic we will talk about is post-truth. Post-truth was chosen as the word of the year by the Oxford Dictionary in 2016. The word, as an adjective, describes the situation in which objective truths are less influential than emotions and personal opinions in determining public opinion on a particular issue. Post-truth refers to a period in which facts and truth lose their importance and lies gain importance and circulate more. In this context, the spread of fake news becomes widespread in the post-truth period. The post-truth era cannot be read solely in terms of the spread of fake news. The post-truth era also affects current politics. In post-truth politics, the common feature of these politicians who practice politics under different conditions in different countries is that they base their entire political discourse on the us and them dynamic. In this type of politics, simple emotions and prejudices are put into play, and objective information and data are completely excluded. What the concrete reality is not taken into consideration by post-truth leaders. In other words, truth has no value. Data and consistency have no place in this irrational politics. Once the actors of this policy frame the issue within the us and them framework, they can make every shocking, scandalous suggestions that comes to mind. The views of these politicians find a place in both traditional and social media, and since news organizations do not examine this information in depth, the circulation of the created facts continues. Post-truth is related to populist discourse in this context. The fourth topic we will talk about today is incels. Since the advent of Web 2.0 and social media, anti-feminism has become evident across a number of online networks and platforms. Despite multiple internal conflicts and contradictions, this anti-feminist line is generally united in their commitment to the red pill philosophy that aims to save men from a life of feminist delusions. The red pill believes that men are determined by women and preaches that men should abandon these gender practices. These communities, commonly known as the manosphere, have become the dominant arena of male communication in Western culture. It appears to complicate the orthodox alignment of power and domination with hegemonic masculinity by operationalizing tropes of victimhood, beta masculinity, and involuntary celibates known as incels. These new hybrid masculinities provoke important questions about the different operation of male hegemony, offline and online, and show that the technological possibilities of social media are particularly well suited to the expansion of new articulations of victimized masculinity. And the last topic we will talk about today is capitalist realism. Capitalist realism is a conceptualization in which the neoliberal project is implemented in all areas of life and established as an ideology, the erosion of political imagination, the surrender of the left, cultural production becoming nothing more than repetition, and all the responsibility of an isolated existence is placed on individuals. Capitalist realism is a concept put forward by British philosopher Mark Fisher in 2009. Capitalist realism has branched out through mental health issues. Capitalist realism, for example, directly addresses mental health issues as a socio-economic phenomenon, not as a genetic disorder. The concept of capitalist realism draws attention to the fact that the end of the world is easier to imagine than the end of capitalism. Capitalist realism immobilizes the masses by making them take for granted the idea of there is no further. Capitalist realism points to an ideology that capitalism is the only valid political and economic system and can never be changed. Alternatives cannot even be imagined.